Did we win it?
Did they complete that lap?
It's going to be close.
We've got the caution lights illuminated.
And we know this is the moment because NASCAR on social media said this is the moment of yellow. Everybody still running is frozen in their respective track position.
The winner will be the 24 to start finish line. Yeah, boys! I'm so freaking proud of you! Woo!
Welcome into a new season of NASCAR Inside the Race. I'm Steve Letarte from NBC alongside my buddy Todd Gordon from Motor Racing Network. Exciting new season ahead, and this season will be presented by Consumer Cellular. Excited to have them on board. And the season's underway. Daytona 500, prime time on a Monday night. Chevy goes to victory lane. Anything jump out or surprise you?
Yeah, I thought it was a tale of three different stories. You had qualifying day, the Fords were dominated the front row. The duels, the Toyotas were exceptional. And we come to a Monday primetime event, and Hendrick Motorsports rises to the occasion.
We like to break down how the race was won. Sometimes it's a moment in this race. I thought it was almost a stage, and it's really the third stage. The whole race was about conserving fuel, gas-only pit stops. It can be a little confusing with pit cycles, and that's really where we find ourselves. William Byron and Denny Hamlin. I think these are the two drivers I'd like to focus on. We're late in the race. We're inside the third stage. We've yet to come to pit road. Two guys I want to focus on. We have Denny Hamlin right here, three-time winner leading the outside lane. I'm going to have to get the zoom in for our man William Byron because he's all the way in the back. I don't know, what is that? Maybe the 12th car, 10th car in line on the inside line. This is before the pit stop. So now, saving gas, how much fuel you think you need to be in. They come to pit road after the pit stop. This is what it looks like. I can circle William Byron because he's found his way to the front. He's right there. And then if I find Denny Hamlin, he is outside.
What, sixth car in line?
Right.
On the fifth car in line?
I bring this up because they didn't really even pass each other on the racetrack. They did it on pit road. So let's take a look at this. Coming to pit road, Denny Hamlin up top, William Byron down bottom.
These are synced. If you look, you see the Sunoco sign in about the same location.
Yeah, so these are two different laps, but they're both coming to pit road, and we can both take a look at the 11's going to actually look out the rear bumper here in a minute. Talk about fuel decisions. When do you come? How much fuel do you take? As a crew chief on top of the box, how do you make those choices?
Yeah, you're trying to work with your teammates or your manufacturer mates or the guys that are around you, figuring out where you need to come. But this is a run where you've got to go longer than what your fuel will go. What you've saved running in the back may put you where you don't have to burn as much. You're not burning as much fuel. You may not need to add as much fuel. Or how you want to get to the end of the run. It's crew chiefs can gamble on, I want to make it to lap 200. Or I feel like there's going to be green-white checkers. I need to be 203, 204 to have a little cushion. They change up the decisions here, and as you look at it, 4.6 seconds for William Byron of fuel, 5.6 for Denny Hamlin.
Well, so that's why I highlighted it, because we showed you how much track position kind of swapped. Basically 1 second in the pit box is the difference. Remember, as soon as you hit the yellow line at the end of pit road, you can return back to racing speed. With the other guy has to maintain that slow, agonizing pit road speed. So to try to visualize it right, I'm going to pause William Byron at this yellow line.
And if you look at this, that line, that yellow line in Denny's view, it's up here almost to the white off the blue. That's probably 5-6 car lengths that he's going to be at pit road speed. William Byron's driving away from him.
I mean, there it is for Denny. And that basically is the difference. So go back to it, right? Here's Denny. Here's William pre-pit stop. Here's William. There's Denny both post-pit stop. Why does that matter? Well, you can't go speedway racing without the big one. So much like we just showed you, let's do it this way, right? So there is William Byron. If we move our little box, there is Denny Hamlin. So this is now heading into the big accident, and that track position makes the difference between one getting through and one getting caught up.
Within sight of each other. 3 car lengths, but as you look at this, pretty big pushes. We're coming a handful of laps left in the race. Just got a push that William couldn't control there, kind of hooked the 6 car.
So I want to go back, and I kind of want to show this again in real time. Just basically focus on the gap that opens up and the shove between the 48 and the 24. Right, so the 24 kind of moves over, catches the 6. The 6 goes up the racetrack. Why does this matter? Because, here's William Byron, and here's Denny Hamlin, right in the middle of the mix. So gaining that track position on the green flag cycle, got one to the front. Now, I know Byron was part of the cause of the accident. but he still got through the accident because of where he was located.
Yeah, he definitely did. And this is one of those situations where kind of a little kind of bouncing off each other. A big push from the 48, the 24 couldn't take, but the 6 was there to kind of straighten the 24 back up, inevitably put him in position to win the race.
So I want to talk fault real quick, and I want to come all the way back here. This is the exit of turn 2 on board with Alex Bowman, and here's why I want to talk about fault. He goes up. You're going to see him give a shot at the 24. There's 1, 2, everything's fine. 3, and there's a wreck. So I only bring that up because, I'm not going to claim to be a race car driver, but from the naked eye, all 3 shots look almost exactly the same. 1 causes a wreck, and I think this is why even the drivers caught up in it weren't pointing the finger. They know those pushes are required to win the race, and that's what happens when the pushing goes wrong.
And that's what we have with a handful of laps left in these races. You've got to get yourself, you've got to take that momentum. You can't ever give that momentum up because it'll take you laps to get that back. You've got to transfer that, and with your teammate in front of you, you're trying to push him forward, and it's just the third bump was a little misaligned. I think William might have been making a move, anticipating what was going on in front of him, but it's small changes that make differences, whether it's a good push or not. It's a racing deal.
So then we have this big wreck. We have a cycle of pit stops. The 24 and the 48, fortunately enough, don't have enough damage to pit. They stay out, which gives them some track position. This surprised me a little bit. I don't know what to make of it, to be quite honest. We're on board with the 48, looking at William Byron. He's running second. In my mind, they're going to line up the Hendrick cars. Well, Ross picks the top. William picks the bottom. The 48 picks the top. What do you make of this not lining up of Hendrick cars?
Yeah, the only thing I can put to it, I mean, you don't know. We can only speculate. But you had a bump that led to the caution we just had. Maybe you don't feel like your teammate can take the push that you want to give him. Maybe you're not the guy to give him the push. So you line up with Ross to see if you can push him. And if he ends up vulnerable, you can do something with him. I don't quite understand it. I thought I would have gone with my teammate and tried to push from the bottom. I thought by nightfall, at this point, the bottom line was actually the faster way around. As the place gets cooler.
So for Ross, you thought Ross would have picked the bottom.
I would have. If I'm Ross, I pick the bottom. I think so because in the sunlight of the day, the wall worked.
Yeah.
By the time we got to dusk, it seemed like the middle worked. And by the time we got this deep into the night, the bottom, I thought, was a better place to be.
Well, when people say how the race was won, this is it. This is the move everybody's going to talk about. William Byron leads the pack. They kind of just gained some kind of little bit of gap there. We have Austin Cindric behind. Corey LaJoie gets Cindric sideways. Ross Chastain kind of tries to shoot the gap. The spin happens. I want to go back and really break this down because first, second, third, fifth, 10th time I watched this, I was blaming Chastain. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I'm
Everybody
so clear
blames
in that.
Chastain.
Well, so I'm not so clear, right? So I don't blame the inside row of Cindric. He's kind of getting wrecked. But if I stop it right here, I'm going to look. First of all, it's the Daytona 500. Mm-hmm. We're in single-digit miles away from winning the race. And if you look at this right here, in my mind, there's a car width between that car and that car. There is a car width for Chastain to come through that hole. It is a low percentage move, but if I'm on the one car, my driver has to make that move. If he wants my support, that's what we're looking for.
I don't blame this on Ross at all. I think it's a fact that Austin Cindric, at this point, he had made a late block on Corey LaJoie and got crossed up. And he's gathering his car back up. As you can see, the trajectory, if we blow that back up, the trajectory.
I got all the tools.
Yeah, you do. The trajectory of this car here, of the 2 car, is in this direction.
Right, not following the yellow lines.
It's not. If it's following the yellow lines that you put up earlier, then it's everybody's got a lane. But he's made that bottom line, to your point, there's no dotted lines there. That bottom lane is moving upwards. That's closing that gap. Ross Chastain can't see that from where he's at.
Right. I mean, look, it's easy. I'm going to play it in high speed because this is what a saved wreck looks like. The 2 is basically, I don't know if the 2 doesn't wreck even if he doesn't hit the 1. They're kind of zigging and zagging. But either way, that was the wreck. That's what brought out the there's another great slow-mo look at it. And then they see the white flag. That means the next flag finishes the race. The caution comes out. We're going to break this down here in just a second, but clearly it was the 24 and ahead of the 48. So for that reason, William Byron goes on to win his first ever Daytona 500. All right, so let's take a closer look to the finish of this year's Daytona 500. This is coming to the white flag. William Byron leading. Chastain goes underneath him. They spin. They go under. The white flag waves. The next flag should end the race. William Byron decided as the winner of the race.
Yeah, and when you watched this last night, it wasn't really clear as to how it all played out and where it worked out. This is a kind of a vague view of who won the race. NASCAR put a piece out on social, but it kind of goes to the details of what the rulebook says.
All right, so let's talk about the rulebook specifically. And I'm going to read it because it's a great read. Here you go. Once the race leader has received the white flag at the start-finish line and the caution lights are illuminated and/or the yellow flag displayed, all vehicles must slow down to a cautious pace. Vehicles are frozen in their respective track position, provided the vehicles return to the start-finish line to complete their lap without assistance, and provided the vehicle maintains a reasonable speed considering the track conditions. Okay, what does that mean in real life? Very simply. Once you cross under the white flag, a yellow flag will end the race. Frozen in their respective track position. We're not using loops.
Right.
You're frozen at that moment in time when the yellow is out. It says either a light or a flag in case something malfunctions, but the simple fact is it all happens at once. They push the button, the yellow comes out, the flag gets waved. It's really when you push the button. That's the moment in time that the field is frozen.
And you and I have been up here and next to race control in our both broadcast positions. There are many different facets that they, at that point, put a timestamp on when they hit the button. That locks down all the video feeds they've got. They can go back to that. They can go to the GPS feed. They can go to a lot of different pieces and digest it that even TV doesn't have.
A couple other things mentioned in there. You have to finish the race, being there's still one lap left. You can't run out of gas. You can't be pushed by a teammate. A wrecker can't push you across there. And it says a reasonable pace, assuming these two had been caught in the accident, was one slowed down. Well, then it becomes much more complicated. This actually is one of the
straightforward.
Yeah, it's one of the simpler ones. It goes on further in the rule. NASCAR will use any data or resources to determine the respective track position. NASCAR shared this on social media last night. Here is what it is. So let's take it. Highlight the yellow flag.
Yeah, we've got the caution lights illuminated.
And we know this is the moment because NASCAR on social media said this is the moment of yellow.
They know where that timestamp is, and this is the moment at which that yellow light comes on.
It says in the rule book it can be yellow light, yellow flag. It's really when they press the button. I think they say that in case the yellow lights don't come on or in case the flag doesn't come out. It's one or the other. Once the track goes under yellow, interchangeable.
Really, it's the point at which the controller says put it out and hits the button.
Well, because at 200 miles an hour, you need a real moment.
Yes.
You've got to have a specific moment in time. This is that moment of time. The yellow flag is out. So now, as we go through the rule, right, everybody still running is frozen in their respective track position. What does that look like? Well, it matters the most to two people, and that's these two right here, because that right there is the finish. You see the great start-finish line finishes of the Daytona 500. Well, that is your 2024 Daytona 500 finish. It's William Byron, in my mind, by a solid fender over the 48. It's close, but it's not. We've seen closer.
It's 3 or 4 feet. It's not close enough to argue past that. Timestamp here, pretty straightforward. Actually, a really good vision of the top 5 finishers.
Yeah. So if you think about this, right, this is for everyone. So now we're going to put William Byron in first, right? Boom. We're going to put Bowman in second. I have Bell easily in third. LaJoie's in fourth.
Bubba Wallace?
Yeah, Bubba Wallace. So there's your top 5 finishers without a doubt.
Yeah.
So now what this does leave, though, is the guys in the wreck, right? So what about these two cars right here? Well, because they are not maintaining a reasonable speed, because they are in the accident, they then get scored kind of at the tail end of the lead lap. So they're 21st and 22nd, respectfully.
Yeah, definitely one of those situations. They are the cause of the caution. They're not maintaining reasonable pace, and that excludes them from the countdown.
It seems simple. Sometimes it can be complicated, but in this scenario, I think it is as clear as it can ever be. The 24 clearly ahead of the 48 at the time of yellow. Therefore, William Byron wins the Daytona 500. Well, William Byron won at Daytona. Denny Hamlin was the favorite and led some laps, but actually I think it's Denny Hamlin's former teammate from years ago, Kyle Busch, in the RCR 8 car that I thought had the best vehicle.
Yeah, I thought so as well. Second year in a row, backup car in contention at the end of the 500.
You mentioned it, backup car. Started shotgun on the field, drove to 6th in stage 1. Had a safety violation, picked crew member over the wall too soon. Starts basically at the back of the field again, drives to 4th at the end of stage 2. Then they leave a wheel loose, have to pit a second time under yellow, and drives at some point all the way to the front, bounces through a couple accidents, and ends up 12th. That is a mentally exhausting day.
And just a phenomenal recovery multiple times. So, you would think the backup car, you can recover from that. The penalty in stage 1 I thought was going to bury him. He drove back to the front like in 5 laps, it seemed like. Just found a hole and went there. And likewise, we've got the loose wheel. The recovery from that was 10 laps and he was back in the front again. It's just incredible the pace that they had driving back through the field.
So I want to break down the loose wheel. I think the other penalties are pretty, straightforward. But the loose wheel, we've seen this before. This isn't anything new, right? Wheels get left loose. The timing of these pit stops, it's really kind of like a ballet, right? The jackman never looks to the front because he assumes the front has a head start. The hand goes up right away. They know they have a loose wheel. They radio to Kyle. Kyle knows he has to nurse this back around without A, the wheel coming off, and B, losing a lap. So I'm going to pause it right here because I think first, let's point out there's nothing. There's not a wheel nut of any sort holding this on right here. So the question then is, how does Kyle Busch magically keep this wheel on his race car?
I think there's a couple of things. One, he does a good job of being deliberate in what he does, but I think speedway racing kind of lends itself to it. And you think about it here, the left front tire doesn't have as much camber. The top of the tire isn't tipped out as far. And a lot of times back when I was at speedway races, we would run toe in. The front tires would be pointed towards each other. So as they roll around, that left front tire is trying to work its way into the hub, not off the hub. Short track racing, you might be towed out a little bit. Then the wheel is trying to drive off. The other piece is the front heights are so low to be low drag that if you look here, this area up in here, see all that rubber up there? The fender's actually holding the tire on.
Wow.
I don't think the tire can actually get out of the wheel opening here with how low they are. So I think it all works together, speedway racing, to hold this tire on for 2.5 miles.
And why does that matter? Because while he still has to pit to tighten this wheel and maybe repair some minor body damage, there's two other options. If the wheel comes off on pit road, it's an in-race infraction where you give up your track position. If the tire comes off on the racetrack, even under yellow, then it's a multiple lap penalty and future suspensions of crew members. So Kyle was able to avoid both of those larger penalties while recovering to a 12th place.
Yeah, and from here, started tail end again and a great drive forward to leading the race. It was a recovery upon recovery upon recovery. A really solid day for these guys, a 12th place finish.
So if you like the super speedway racing at Daytona, you get more of it this week at Atlanta. Make sure you tune in 3 p.m. on Fox on Sunday, and then check out all the NASCAR platforms on Tuesday for the next episode of NASCAR Inside the Race.